Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so today we are diving into a modern media mystery that honestly sounds almost impossible to believe in our hyper-connected world. We're talking about the FIFA World Cup, arguably the single biggest sporting spectacle on the planet and a complete broadcast blackout in the world's most populous country. That's right, we are looking at the shocking reality that right now, India, a country with over 1.4 billion people, has absolutely no official way to watch the upcoming World Cup. So how does a massive, football-crazy market suddenly find itself staring at a blank screen just weeks before kickoff? Let's find out. Okay, let's dive into this. Part 1, the broadcast paradox. To really understand India's missing World Cup, we need to grasp the sheer emotional weight of what's actually being lost here. I want you to picture this scene in Bangalore back in December 2022. When Argentina's Gonzalo Montiel converted that final penalty to seal the World Cup title, the city just erupted. There was this fan, Vishwas Banerjee, standing at a street crossing close to midnight watching a massive screen, and he was so overcome with emotion that he literally screamed and tossed his shirt away into the night sky. He later told reporters, "Everyone went crazy, we danced on the streets." This was a massive celebration of a Lionel Messi victory happening more than 3,000 miles away from Qatar, right in the heart of what many assume is strictly a cricket-mad country. The passion for football in India is intense, it's visceral, and it is highly, highly communal. But man, contrast those euphoric memories with today's cold, hard reality. Fast forward to May 19, 2026. Lionel Messi is expected to make his World Cup swan song in North America. The Mexico kickoff is just 23 days away, and yet FIFA has not found a single buyer for the broadcast rights in India. Let that sink in. The organizers of the world's biggest tournament cannot find anyone willing to put it on television or digital streams for the world's largest population. It's a staggering contrast. Now, what's really interesting about this next point is the sheer scale. Part 2, a massive football market. You might assume there's no broadcast deal because, well, maybe there's no audience. But the data shows a staggering 745 million fans followed the action during the 2022 World Cup, trailing only China in overall engagement. Actually, let's narrow that down to just television viewing numbers. 84 million. That is the number of TV viewers in India who watched the 2022 World Cup. That put India among the top 10 countries in the entire world for television viewership. Think about that for a second. More people watch the World Cup on TV in India than in major footballing strongholds like Germany, France, and England. The audience isn't just there, it is practically unparalleled. And historically, broadcasters have been more than willing to pay top dollar for that massive audience. Back in 2013, Sony Sports paid around $90 million for the 2014 and 2018 World Cups, plus Euro 2016. Fast forward a bit, and Reliance's Jio paid $60 million just for the 2022 tournament rights, and they clocked an unbelievable 40 billion minutes of watch time on their platform. So naturally, FIFA walked into the 2026 negotiations expecting plenty of takers for an estimated $100 million asking price. But here we are in 2026, and despite FIFA reportedly slashing that asking price significantly, the current money on the table is exactly zero. So what exactly broke the system? To solve this mystery, we have to look at our very first clue. Part 3, the time zone trap. And this brilliantly illustrates the immediate physical hurdle here. Geography. The 2026 tournament is being hosted across the United States, Canada, and Mexico. That creates a brutal 10 to 12-hour time difference for the South Asian nation. Look at the dramatic drop-off in accessible viewing hours. In 2018, almost all the matches, we're talking 98.4%, started before midnight in India. In Qatar in 2022, it was still a highly accessible 82.5%. But in 2026, a staggering collapse down to just 13.4%. Out of a massive 104 World Cup games, only 14 will begin before midnight for fans in India. Even the absolute crown jewel of the tournament isn't spared. The final, scheduled to be held in New Jersey on July 19, will kick off at 12:30 a.m. India time. For a casual viewer who might just want to tune in to see the spectacle, staying up past midnight on a Sunday night is a massive deterrent. And look, if the casual viewers aren't tuning in, the advertisers certainly aren't paying. But as it turns out, geography is really only half the battle. Let's move to our next set of clues. Part 4, the shadow of cricket. To understand the economic roadblocks keeping broadcasters away, we have to talk about boardrooms and bank accounts. Let's systematically unpack these compounding economic factors driving this blackout, because it's like a giant puzzle. First off, traditional television is increasingly seen as a struggling medium in India, with digital platforms effectively monopolizing the big monetization. Second, and perhaps most importantly, cricket completely dominates the sports economy. The Indian Premier League, or IPL, is a total financial juggernaut. And timing is everything here. The 2026 World Cup begins just 10 days after the IPL 2026 final. That means major primetime advertisers have already exhausted the vast majority of their annual sports budgets right before the football even begins. Furthermore, the macroeconomy of sports entertainment recently took a massive hit when the Indian government banned fantasy real money betting apps, completely drying up a huge stream of advertising and sponsorship revenue. And finally, the overall market value for streaming foreign football is simply correcting downward. To put that into perspective, English Premier League rights in India fell from $145 million a decade ago to just $65 million for the upcoming cycle. When you combine exhausted advertiser budgets, the loss of betting app money, a declining football market, and games playing at 2 a.m., well, you get a $100 million product with absolutely zero buyers. This corporate stalemate has led to some truly unprecedented fallout. Part 5. Taking FIFA to court. When the market fails, sometimes fans take matters into their own hands. And that leads us to one of the most unique legal battles in sports broadcasting history. Right now in New Delhi, the High Court is actively hearing a plea regarding this exact lack of a broadcast deal. A lawyer, who happens to be a devoted football fan, has filed a petition seeking judicial intervention. The petitioner is arguing that by not broadcasting the tournament, authorities have directly infringed upon his fundamental right to acquire information, literally claiming it as an integral part of freedom of speech and expression under the Indian Constitution. He asserts millions of citizens will be irreparably deprived without a remedy. Now, whether you agree with the legal merit of equating a sports broadcast to constitutional free speech or not, the fact that a high court is seeking responses over it proves exactly how culturally significant this blackout really is. It forces us to ask a really fascinating philosophical question. Is watching a global cultural event like the World Cup a fundamental right? For FIFA, this legal drama highlights a massive strategic problem. FIFA's long-term ambition is to grow the game of football in large media markets like India. But if your product is inaccessible to 1.4 billion people because of a pricing and time zone dispute, you aren't just losing immediate revenue, you are potentially losing a whole generation of future fans. Let's move to Madithau and see how this builds to our conclusion. Part 6. How will India watch? With the clock ticking down, what are the actual options left for the millions of Indian football fans waiting to catch the action? Legally, there might be one final lifeline, and it is a real blast from the past. The Delhi High Court has sought responses from Doordarshan, India's state-owned public television broadcaster. Now, Doordarshan last beamed the tournament all the way back in 1998. Could a state-owned entity swoop in at the 11th hour to secure a deal and save the day, much like China's state broadcaster did just recently? It definitely remains a possibility, but time is running dangerously short. But the crucial point is summarized perfectly by Vishwas Banerjee, the fan we met at the very beginning of this explainer. Despite his absolute heartbreak over the lack of a reliable official broadcast, his resolve remains entirely unbroken. He openly admits, "We will tune to pirated streams anyway. No one can stop that." When the economics of sports broadcasting break down, the demand doesn't simply disappear. It just goes underground. And that leaves us with a really compelling thought to end on today. When a multi-billion-dollar market completely fails its most passionate fans, does piracy just become an inevitable outcome? It's a stark reminder that while sports economics are dictated by time zones, advertiser budgets, and corporate valuations, the love of the game absolutely refuses to be blacked out. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking questions and keep exploring the fascinating mechanisms behind the media we love.